Oh, they weren't
There
hard.
were,
Yeah.
and in my view, and people might take issue with this. I mean, I thought the first try ought to have been given offside because there was a wire player stood clearly in front of the kicker and within the 10 of the man touching the ball. Now he screwed it up anyway and knocked it forward, but I think it was probably offside. But anyway, Scott Mickey Mouse didn't give it. Yeah, it didn't seem to me to be much of an exciting game. At the end, I suppose, if you get over the line with some drop goals, certainly some excitement in the crowd. I saw, plenty of Salford fans and plenty of Warrington fans celebrating as their individual drop goals went over.
Yeah, and I think you do get excitement from that. It just
Yeah,
sounds like there wasn't much joy for the previous 79 minutes or
no,
so.
no, no, not much. Any other thoughts on that, Mark?
Well, I think it's fair if we sort of pull out the what you said about resting players for people who aren't aware. Matty Ashton started at fullback. Ratchford was on the bench, but there was no Jake Mamo, who's been playing in the side. No Lynham, but I think that's another story, isn't it? Fulis has been
Yeah,
playing for a few weeks now. In the forwards is where their starting front row was Aribi Doro, Matt Davis, and Robbie Mulhern. That's
yeah,
not, that's nothing like what they'll be putting out
yeah,
when it comes playoff time. Ben Curry, Blake Austin, and Jack Hughes at loose forward was the backs. Jason Clark and Ellis Longstaff were the only bench players that they used. Young Tom Whitehead didn't get on. So clearly, with a thought on resting up a few players after a tougher game at Magic Weekend, knowing that they're going to have to go every week in the playoffs because
yeah,
the best they could finish was third.
yeah,
I think that'll have played a role in that decision making. Whereas Salford, similarly, their forward pack now looks a bit off. Ormond, Royd, and Johnson were their starting props, and um, they have Burke and Luckley on the bench to come on as well at props. That's not Mossa Panika who started the season reasonably well, is it?
yeah.
That's a different situation there. So, yeah, that's probably why the game would have been lacking. The Lola here try, I think that the only try of the second half, that was probably the pick from this game, weren't there? There was some good late
Yeah,
offloading in
yeah,
it, some good support play involved, but all of the tries look like on another day they would have been prevented. Um, and yeah, we didn't get to see on the highlights the Kristen Inu drop goal attempts that were messed up. We only got to see the
the
several
ones.
attempts that were scored,
Yeah,
unfortunately. So I can't see. So we didn't get to see how much that was buggered up. Danny Addy got a sin bin in, didn't he? But no charge came from that. It was a high tackle, but nothing more came out of that. We yeah. So that's that. Um, One
I
thing you
think.
got to
Well,
say is it's another close game that they've won with drop goals. So
yeah,
you've got to keep an
yeah,
eye out for that if you're going to go into a close game in the playoffs with them.
yeah, yeah. No doubt about that. And I think we're going to see, more low intensity player resting type activities going on in the last round as well.
Well, we absolutely saw it in this next game to talk about.
Didn't we? So Catalan playing at home against Huddersfield. Sorry, Mark, I'm pinching your thunder here. This one's your game.
It's all right. It was 18-12 to the Dragons at half time, but it finished 30 points to 18 at full time for Huddersfield Giants. 7,318 there to watch Catalans lift the shield. Tom Grant was the referee. In terms of the team stats, incomplete because Corentin Lecam and I'm not sure which one of the other Matthew Cozza probably on the bench didn't exist or something probably. Individually, Ollie Ashall-Bott with a try, 7 tackle busts and 152 metres. Nathan Peaks with 2 try assists and 42 tackles. It'll be interesting to see what they do about Nathan Peaks, whether they'll retain him for next year because he's shown up week after week on the stats lineup with assists and tackles. So we'll see. Joe Greenwood 121 metres and Ricky Lutelli a try assist, 5 tackle busts and 119 metres for Huddersfield. So they're losing Catalans, one man who did stand up was Mikel Gudemon, 54 tackles, 13 of which were mark tackles, 102 metres, he went both ways. Tom Davies with a try assist and 167 metres, Mathieu Laguerre with a try, 113 metres, and Romain Franco with 111 metres. Matt Whitley did pick up a caution for dangerous contact, but that's just a caution in it, so that's nothing to write home about. We did get one fan viewing though.
We did, from Alan Walker. What a day. La Diada. 11th September is the best day of the year. Marches, speeches and trophy presentations. Oh, and a match. The kids get a run out, just like in the streets of Barcelona. Steve's back doing his halftime tea talks, and he put Carver in the cups instead of tea, so we came out pissed up for the second half. Is the hubcap still in the helicopter or what? Visca el Drax, Visca Catalunya.
Yes, that marches and speeches thing that he's talking about, people might have caught up over the weekend, but basically big independence rallies in Catalonia, so in Barcelona at the weekend. Someone I work with was on holiday there and didn't know what was going on, and then put a video up of like just Plaça de Catalunya just filled with people with big Catalan flags and lots of stuff, kind of relatively peacefully protesting for their point of view in northeast Spain there. But back to the on the field stuff. All the tries in the first half came from kicks.
Yeah.
Not particularly well defended kicks, some of them as well, although some of them were nicely executed kicks, certainly for the first Dragons try. But so all three of the Dragons tries they only scored in the first half. They
raced into a lead, didn't they?
Yeah, and they were 18-0 up from those tries from kicks, and that's a key area that teams need to look at in the playoffs, isn't it? Because Drinkwater and Maloney do have a fantastic kicking game, and you add Tompkins into that mix as well, and it's a real threat, the kicking game, both on the ground and in the air. We saw that against you guys with the Cassiano try right at the end of the game to win it as well. To level it. So that's something that the other teams need to be keeping an eye at, and so this will help them pick up some tells about what they're trying to do and stuff in that regard, I suppose, because Drinkwater and Maloney were kind of their main players that would play anyway, kind of players. The Gil Dudson had a bit of time on the field. Tom Davies played. Artem Morg, who's been off the bench a lot of the time, he started this one at full back. But Battieri, who's not been a mainstay in the side in recent times. Julian and LeCam played in the back row. You had Matthew Cozza, Jordan Desario and Robin Brush on the bench. So you're talking young kids trying to... And Paul Seguier was the other substitute as well. So you're talking, French players that you want to see coming through the system there, but not exactly their first choice side by a long shot. Cesar Rouge was at hooker, who's played a bit in the halves, hasn't he? Mathieu Laguerre and Romain Franco played. It was a mile off their best side, whereas the Giants, again, not full strength, but we're not as far off their best side. No.
And it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next week, because in the case of both Catalans and Saints, we've effectively got, we've got this week, and then we've got a week off, and then we've got the week when we play.
Exactly, yeah. Well, we'll save...
If you don't put a side out this week, it's kind of 3 weeks.
Well, that's why I think they've rested so many people this week rather than next week.
Whereas we couldn't really. We needed to win the game against Leeds. Now, we could rest players against Salford, but then it is going to be 3 weeks before some of your players get to play again. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. And it'll be interesting to see what Catalan do this week.
Yeah, we'll maybe make some guesses around that later on when we do our predictions, because we can look at what games matter and what games don't a bit more. But yeah, when you played your game, there
was something on it.
Sort of, yeah, because Warrington hadn't.
We did. They had an outside chance of finishing second, and
That's
we needed to secure that. So now that's done, there isn't anything on the next game for us or indeed for our opponents.
But certainly with the team they set up and also with the way the game went, I'm not sure how intense the Dragons played this one. I mean, Ollie Ashall Bot's try shouldn't be getting scored against a top team, and neither really should the Matty English try as well. So, there's maybe question marks there, but maybe it was a case of it didn't really matter. They didn't really care.
No, it's always a difficult judgment to make about, do you need to stay on a roll versus resting players and, avoiding potential injuries to key players. So everyone's going to make their own judgments as to what they do and how they do it. But clearly this was Catalan definitely had the cue on the rack for this one.
Yep. Okay, well, let's move on to a game that did have a lot riding on it. It was very exciting.
Huge amount riding on it, and I thought it was a really exciting game. So it finished Hull KR 26, Castleford 19. It was 12-13 at half-time. 6,840 there. James Child was the referee. We do have team stats for this. The stats were tight and fairly even. Both had 5 breaks. Castleford made slightly more metres at a slightly better average game and had a better team tackle success rate. But Hull KR made 3 fewer errors and conceded 3 fewer penalties. For the winners, Sean Kenny Dowell, who's playing really well, 7 tackle busts, 150 metres. Kane Linnett, who also had a very good game, 1 try assist. Bless me, sorry. 5 busts, 131 metres and 2 clean breaks. That's a hell of a stat line. Mikey Lewis, who had a great game, 2 tries, 5 tackle busts, 121 metres and 2 clean breaks. For the losers, Adam Milner, 40 tackles, 10 marker tackles, 138 metres. James Clare, 136 metres. Daryl Alford, 1 try, 5 tackle busts, 124 metres. And Niall Evans, 2 tries, 103 metres and 2 clean breaks. Nothing from the disciplinary.
Nope.
We do have some fan views, though. First one's quite interesting.
Yeah, Neil Ormston says, no, it wasn't. And I'm assuming he's talking about the Matt Parcell try.
Yeah, I think... Well, I'm not sure whether he means no, it wasn't a try, or no, it wasn't a knock.
No, I think he means no, it wasn't a try.
Things were. I've got my view, which I'll give in a moment. Tom Andrews says, great game, incredible atmosphere, well-fought contest that could easily have gone either way. Questionable knock-on for the Parcell try. It's not questionable. But made up for the constant slowing down of the ruck and swinging arms Cass were getting away with Lewis, Dagger and Parcell all immense. Excellent defence in the second half too. Had to laugh at Richardson being so offside he was halfway to Zeebrugge at the end of the end. Moment of the match has to be Mossy and family walking the ball out pre-match. True hero of the day. Also nice to be handed the fabled SLP silverware in an emotional halftime ceremony once the steward had accepted the legitimacy of the award and let us through the gate. She was very impressed with it, although I think she thought it was from the Super League.
Yeah, Fat Boy Rob handed over one of the medals he won a few years ago in the SLP Awards. Because Tom was moaning that we don't. Last week, Tom was moaning that we don't do the medals anymore. I was like, well, I only did them for 1 year, and then kind of became a bit too much work. But yeah.
I see.
Fatboy Rob said, Wembley Mark II. Cass on top, only to be pegged back by a truly awful refereeing decision. This one didn't even make it to the video ref. Cass played well and probably deserved the win overall, but it wasn't to be. On to Wire on Thursday. If we win, we are in. #Coif. I don't think Cass did deserve the win overall. I agree they played well, but so did OKR.
I think it was a pretty even contest. I thought it was a pretty even contest. I mean, I do think that the James Child decision was pretty crucial. It was at a very important point in the match. You know, Cass were 19-12, I think, up at the time.
Yeah.
I can understand Child not seeing the knock on, but I'm a bit surprised he didn't go to the VR to check, given there were so many complaints about it clearly being a knock on. I'm slightly surprised that he was confident that there wasn't, when I think in reality there was.
Yeah,